Hello and welcome to MB Tech. My name is Matthew Bingham, and today we're going to go over installing the Raspberry PiHole. Basically, it's the DNS server that I use for local DNS when I set up the Kubernetes clusters and stuff like that. So we'll go over that real quick. One thing that we can do is go right to the PiHole website, and from there we can tell how we're going to install it. You can actually do a Docker install. Here's another list of actual systems that it will work on. I mean, you can do an Ubuntu, on which we can make a secondary one as a VM or something along those lines if you'd like. So basically, we're just going to go to the installation. It's actually pretty easy. It's just this one line here. Once you put in this one line, it will automatically go through the install of it. So we will copy and paste that. This is a Raspberry Pi that's been freshly done with the 32-bit, I believe, of Buster. And then all we do here is we just put in that line, hit enter, and it will go through and check to make sure that everything is set up properly on the system, and then it'll actually tell you what's going on afterwards, how to access it, and do that as well. So let me make sure you can see this. Right now it's actually updating the local cache of packages, and it's upgrading packages as well. Okay, this is just letting you know that it's going to be doing a complete install. So you can click OK here. OK again, and it wants to make sure that this is a static IP address. One way you can make this a static IP address is actually go to your Raspberry Pi and make it static, or you can actually use your DHCP server, whether it's one that you've set up in Linux, whether it's one that's part of your network. Mine is part of actually my Unify network. So what it is, I reserve that IP address to this specific box. So we're going to answer yes to this. And it wants to make sure that that is the IP address, and it is a static. So we'll hit OK there. And it's possible your router could still try to assign this IP address. So it's very important that this IP address doesn't change or get used anywhere else. We'll click OK to that. Here it wants to know which DNS server providers we want to use. We can use Google. It actually has got OpenDNS as well. So for this, we'll just actually use the Google. And this is a list of sites that are possibly bad, or it can block ads and stuff like that. There's other locations where you can get more, but this is a good one to start out with. So we'll hit OK to this. Make sure it's checked. And you want the web admin? Yes, we want to be able to administrate from our web admin. And we want to install that? Yes. And you want to log queries? Yes. We have privacy mode for the FTL. This here, I'll just show everything. Click OK, and it's going to continue to install the rest of PiHole. It's finishing up putting the installing the sudoer file, latest cron scripts, log rotation, and it's actually doing a test right now of the main page installation. And we're almost there, near the end. And what's nice, at the very end, it actually tells you what the password is going to be for that. So we'll let this finish out, and then we'll get that information. And there's the information. The installation is complete. It gives us our IP address of our DNS server, and it tells us what the web interface is for the admin. Make sure you write down this password or copy and paste it, because you will need it once you log in. Once you go to the website, come to log in. So click the login, and when you're there, put in the password that was given, and click the login button. Once you're logged in, this is where we need to make our local DNS changes. It'll be on the left-hand side. And in here, you got your local DNS, then you got your DNS records. This is where you put your DNS records in. It's real easy. So, for instance, one of my servers is MB3 PRR cube control 001.binglab.lan. And then the IP address is 10.14.1.71. Once you add that, it gets added down here at the bottom. And then you can see now that we have local DNS for that server itself. And then you just do the same thing for all of your other servers that you have in your Kubernetes cluster. And then therefore you have local DNS resolution, and you shouldn't have really any issues from that point between the communication of all your systems. Therefore, you'd have your workers, you'd have your your controllers for the control plane, and then you have your storage, as well as your load balancer as well in here. So that's it for installing the Raspberry PiHole. It's very easy. Like I said, it's just that one script that you run, and it automatically sets that up. If you want, you can create another one as a VM. It's basically the same setup, same steps. Just make sure it's one of the systems that is provided by PiHole or supported by PiHole. You can do a Docker install even, and then here's a list of the supported operating systems. So if you go here real quick, I'll zoom in. It's quite a bit. Ubuntu 16 all the way to 21, Debian, Fedora, and CentOS 7.8. And it works on Rocky Linux as well, just to let you know. So that is it for installing the PiHole. This will get us started in the series. This will get us our DNS, which is our main and most important thing. As the saying goes, it isn't DNS, it isn't DNS, it is DNS, it isn't DNS, it is DNS. Just a little joke, but no, a lot of times it is name resolution, and usually it does fall into the DNS category for that. Hope you enjoyed this, and if you would, please like and subscribe. Next, we will go and actually start setting up these systems. We'll be using a Pixie server initially to set up the systems, and then from there we'll actually use an Ansible server, or Ansible control server, if you will, to get those systems prepared and ready for Kubernetes to be installed on them, which is basically installing Docker, then Kubernetes, or Kubelet, I should say, and then from there we'll actually set up the different steps there. But that will be further down the road, but we'll get these going. I try to keep my videos as short as possible. I try to keep them around between 5 and 10 minutes. If you want them to be longer, I can, but I usually find myself, when I watch other videos, I'm pretty bored, if it's not done pretty fast. There will be a link to my website, and there will be a link to the commands and information that was done during this video. Thank you, and have a good night.